Hello. Hello there.
Hey,
Hello.
Natalie. How are you?
Hi. Good. And you?
I'm good. Yeah,
How come you have such a Dutch name?
I know. I figured you'd notice that. My family's from Belgium, so we have a Flemish background.
Flemish. Okay. Yeah. Janssens is indeed spelled un-Dutch, but it's
Yeah,
Flemish. All right.
yeah, I know. Don't ask me to recite anything in Dutch though, because I don't really know that much. So,
Okay.
well, thank
All
you so
right.
much for being here. As part of the lecture series in spring 2021 at the UTSOA. Um, which is sponsored by D. Michelle Addington and the Lectures and Exhibitions Committee here at UT. Natalie, if usually when I'm starting research on architects, on designers, I start with something like Wikipedia, and Wikipedia has you listed first as an architect and then as a lecturer and then as an urbanist. So I wonder if you can maybe introduce yourself by commenting on how you think that those things work as a hierarchy, or if you always think of yourself as one over the other. So
Well, it's others who make these pages, but I did graduate as an architect originally. And I pretty soon also started to teach. So I guess lecturer, that's not incorrect, that it's second.
yeah,
And after a while, through practice, I also became an urbanist and registered as such. So I think we've always worked on many different scales, and we've also always been interested, I myself also, in talking about what we are doing and why we're doing, also to students. So it's an important part of who we are. And we also like to think that all the different scales we work on and in are informing each other and informing us also about the future of the built environment. So all these things matter, I guess, and so far in our office, I think it also shows in the multitude of projects that we have done.
yeah. You work in a variety of scales and typologies. And of course, I think any interview question can be tinged with the pandemic, which is sort of rocking, all of our lives. So I wonder if there's a scale or a typology which you find yourself or your firm coming back to as a sort of a comfort food nowadays during the pandemic, or if there's something that's sort of the broccoli or the greens that you think is the bread and butter of your firm nowadays.
Well, I think I believe really we want to be part of a lively city and have buildings that also actively participate to that. We want to also do that by creating common shared spaces inside buildings, but also always look out for the possibility with our building to also create or add to public space as well. And I think the pandemic has also, of course, learned us that what is close to our homes, to where we are, is incredibly important for the quality of our life. So if you can't escape it,
Yeah.
which actually many people can't, of course, everything which is close in close range is very valuable, and also the ability to still somehow meet each other, find different kind of places that link to your home. That's very important, and not just because of the current crisis, but also the upcoming ones
Yeah.
regarding climate change are also important, of course. I think this week is Climate Action Week, if I'm right. The Netherlands is hosting a conference on that theme as we
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Yeah.
here in the States, it's a more of a tumultuous thing, our relationship with sustainability. Just, speaking in terms of like even the Paris Climate Accords. But I guess sticking to like relationships, interpersonal relationships now, as the DV in MVRDV, I wonder how that design relationship has changed with the M, Winnie Moss, and the VR, the Jacob van Rees, how that has changed over time, and how that is currently sort of working during the pandemic.
Well, let me say, I'm sitting here at a desk, and opposite me is a chair of my partner VR, who is also my husband. So that's quite a close relationship. No, but I think throughout the years, especially, of course, when the office got bigger, it's the team of people working in our office whom we all work with and share, which is the true MVRDV now. And we are merely the founding partners. We're engaged all individually in projects, but our collaborators work all across the office and also for all three partners. So I'd like to think now that this DNA is in the office itself, by the way we are working and developing our projects together. Yeah, as for Jacob and Winnie, we know each other already for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And we see each other weekly now online, indeed. Well, Winnie at least.
Yeah.
So keep the pulse and keep on track. I must say I'm deeply impressed by all the people in my office who just maintain the working spirit, and yeah, it's incredible what people are doing currently from home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say apart maybe from model making, pretty much everything has happened so far.
Yeah.
So,
and you're currently teaching, correct?
I'm also teaching since end of 2018. I'm also chair of a group called Public Building at the Technical University of Delft. And indeed, that's a group of teachers. We all engage mostly in the masters, but also, actually, I also teach bachelors. And again, the students, apart from a brief period when they were allowed to go to the studio 1 day a week, are all working online, even in teams sometimes. And there's graduate students, it's the Master 1 and 2, it's the bachelors. It's amazing. And my teachers are also amazing in having transformed the education to online teaching completely. We had before the summer a lot of graduate students graduating online as well, mostly. So we try to keep up the spirit, and we have decided to work more on sites and topics close to home, so that at least people can go there by bus or tram or cycle there, visit the sites. I think that has turned out to be very nice, because that means that you can at least have this experience of site visits and excursions, albeit on your own.
Yeah, and appreciate especially what's directly around you now that we can, I think we are more aware of just being able to go outside as a gift nowadays.
It also shows the immense power of digitalization of our profession, by the way, that this always is possible.
Yeah. But on academia, I know you've taught at a variety of universities, and you actually you currently teach at TU Delft. So I wonder, as an alumnus of TU Delft, if your curriculum has changed, for that school, if you find yourself falling into the trying to remake the education that you had versus if you teach in somewhere like Germany or in the States at Harvard. If those educations and those curriculums are different, or if you are mostly trying to really focus on relevant topics overall.
Yes, I always well, there's many questions that you just asked me.
Yeah, sorry.
In general, I think the projects I've been giving on whatever school I was working, they pretty much were always based on projects that were linked to the what I see as the near future of different important topics for architects. So I see that our profession is evolving and developing. I see also that things are not getting easier, that you have to deal with much more stakeholders and interests nowadays. Things haven't gotten easier in that regard. So I guess it's important for every student to, on the one hand, practice designing, and on the other hand, have an awareness of all the things that might influence your design. So in general, I always try to find real parties in the field that are somehow engaged with the project, either because they're architects and dealt with it, or whether they're clients who have dealt with it, or municipalities. So that's always sort of in the mix of what I try to teach, so that students can get a bit of an experience of hearing things from different perspectives. And it's always interesting if these people can also be at the final presentation, so that the students get feedback about that. It doesn't mean that a project can't be hypothetical or a bit further in the future, because that's also important for students to explore the future, to explore your own individual tastes and possibilities and experiment. And I think that's a big difference between working in practice, of course, and studying, that you're really allowed to explore beyond boundaries that maybe a practicing architect would encounter soon enough.
Yeah,
And about the TU Delft connection, it's interesting. Last week we had a little bit of we had a small meeting with all the chairs of practice, practical professors like me, who combine practice and teaching. But they all come from different perspectives and backgrounds, and we were actually discussing with each other what actually the meaning is of the word of the term design research. And I noticed that when I studied in the 80s, we were much more talking about analyzing the site, analyzing the topic, analyzing typology. And nowadays, I think it is evolved in making more connections between research and design by implementing elements of design, of research in your design, and vice versa. Design the research. So I think that has developed between the past and the present. But I do think that at Delft we were always very focused on being aware of the context of projects, whatever context you could mean, literal, historical, what other architects did, technical context as well. I'm just using the word context now, but in a very broad sense. Yeah.
Well, I think your current research has to do with multiplicity, right, and the circular sort of economy of buildings, and their sort of future use. I think just looking at some past lectures that you've given and your current topics of research, I get a sense of optimism in your work. I get quite optimistic for the future. Do you think that's a result of your successes at MVRDV, or do you think your successes are a result of this optimistic outlook? And you can correct me if I'm totally wrong on the optimism. Maybe it's a mix of realism or pessimism. Yeah.
Well, I guess it's quite hard if an architect isn't an optimist, since you're actually having to deal with the future. Yeah. If you are you could maybe become very defensive or inwards or move completely inwards. But I think we want to figure out also if what others might call obstacles could also be actually possibilities. Mm-hmm. So the fact that we integrate much more aspects of life into our designs nowadays has actually also given us tremendous design opportunities. One only has to think about, well, in my own topic at TU Delft, but I actually came up with this idea, as I will also show in the lecture, by what I saw in practice, is the fact that public buildings have developed public use building from more single-use functionalistic buildings into much more hybrid buildings, where lots of facilities are combined. And I think that's maybe originally, the reasons for it are more economical or practical, but it can also lead to fantastic architecture and fantastic environments for people. So, and yeah, also the fact that we have a growing populations, densification, and growing, densifying our cities doesn't mean that we cannot expand our spatial possibilities as well. And I think we have to look at it in an optimistic way, otherwise we are destroying our own environment, and it becomes ever harder to live in it. So I think we need optimism to be able to deal with what we are facing. And
well, it's
and sometimes it leads to incredibly interesting solutions that make people smile. And oh well, that's not bad. I don't know that that a sense of happiness is coming from it.
Yeah, it's helpful for me as a graduating MArch student, having some of my cynicism squashed a little bit by some optimistic work.
I must say, I'm also often pleasantly surprised to see then at some point the building is erected. And you turn a corner of a street and you think, oh my God, it's really there. They did it. It's there now. It's not a surprise at all, of course, but somehow you can still amaze yourself also sometimes. Yeah, it's really working. Well, that's of course the big challenge for you also, I guess. See if it really can really make it work. Yeah, and can make other people happy as well. Mm-hmm.
Well, we're coming to about the time here, but I want to ask one more question. I guess related to your new role, which just started, I think, a few weeks ago, right? As the city architect, or the Staatsbouwmeester, is that the right term for?
Both right. Yeah.
For
Bouwmeester is a kind of ancient term for architect. Building master.
Yeah. But I guess my question is more about the political agency that you feel architects should have, or if you feel like you're in more of a place to make change in politics as an architect versus a designer as an architect.
Well, I guess it's functions like these that also allow me to look at things from the different sides. From the other side, I get a closer look into how municipalities work, and it also allows me to find maybe issues that I can't tackle as an individual architect or urbanist, because some things are much more interesting to solve at different scales as well. But I must say, I always learn from these kind of jobs something about my profession. So it's like working on different scales, but then in your profession, working with different perspectives, going back and forth. And actually, as a city architect, I also use the perspective of the architect, of the individual who gets commissioned by the city, to say, hey, well, if I were an architect, but if I'm the one getting this commission, would that feel right? Does it give me the right possibilities? And can I really solve the issues that you're bringing forward? So I'm also like a middleman between different parties. I'm not and to keep an overview on a longer period of time about a whole city is of course a magnificent possibility to see, also witness and use the effect of the qualities of design for a city as a whole. And you're right, it's also political, in the sense that that it's public task that you're performing. So
well, thank you so much for kicking off the lecture series this spring at UT, the UTSOA. And I'm looking forward to watching your lecture.
Thank you very much, and success with your graduation project.
Thank you.
What's the topic?
My studio topic? We're doing a adaptive reuse, actually, of
That's nice.
of a historic building here by sort of outskirts of town. So yeah, we're excited for it. Sort of mixed use museum project. So
Sounds like an appropriate
we're
project for these days.
looking to some
Okay. Well,
looking
good
to
luck
some
with that.
MVRDV stuff.
All right.
Okay, well,
Good.
I'll maybe talk to you later, but otherwise, talk. Bye.
Goodbye.